Our atmospheric river drawing closer to the coast, becoming a bomb cyclone, and the flooding concerns that we're starting to get higher confidence on where this cycle of storms will actually land. You can see the precipitation forecast going up to about 3 to 10 inches as we draw more into northern California, particularly along the northwest coast. We will have those flood concerns, though, for lower elevations, especially with a fluctuating snow line. I'm ABC 10 Chief Meteorologist Monica Woods. We've got our full weather playlist and these in-depth forecasts that will continue to keep folks ahead of the storms on ABC 10 Plus. Now, you can download it for free wherever you stream on TV. That includes Roku, Apple TV, Fire TV, and more. It's live, local, and always on. We're going to be expanding our coverage, especially with this first powerful atmospheric river of this season, with rain, snow, and gusty winds impacting our pre-holiday travel into the weekend. This did become a bomb cyclone with rapidly dropping pressure overnight, 24 millibars or more in 24 hours or less, meeting the definition of that bomb cyclone. It's a rapidly intensifying storm with heavy rain and snow damaging winds. And those winds can reach hurricane force strength, upwards of 70 plus miles per hour. It's very evident when we look at our satellite and radar. Here's a look at the low pressure system. Now, this is where we have that bomb cyclone. It's pulling in our atmospheric river, so intensifying it. And it's got a lot of moisture coming from the subtropics, a very warm tap to that moisture plume, as you can see with our future moisture drawing in all of this warmth here and really giving us a lot of moisture to drive in those precipitation numbers, driving them up, I should say, over the course of the next 7 days. Winter storm warning already in effect for the Sierra. This takes us all the way into Wednesday evening at 10 p.m. For the coastal region, we're also going to see the coastal range under that winter storm warning. And again, that will continue to show impacts with snow. Now, I mentioned the wind advisory in place starting up tonight at 10 p.m. That goes through 4 p.m. tomorrow through parts of the Sacramento Valley towards the coast, and then east of the crest we'll also find some very gusty winds. Behind all that, we've got our flood watch. That will continue through Saturday morning. We tend to have a lingering impact with the flood concerns because of the moisture that's coming in, the lack of absorption in the ground, and any storm drains that may be clogged, rivers, creeks, streams, all impacted. It doesn't look like we're going to hit any flood risk for those major rivers, but they are going to be seeing some rises. Here's a look at the beginning of the storm cycle. Again, you're seeing a lot of yellow and orange, indicative of some heavier rain in there. This will be riding right along that I-80 line and then points northward and towards the North Bay area. Also of concern is going to be north of I-80 with the snow starting to pile up in places like Quincy, Susanville, through Plassen and Lassen counties. We'll be watching that closely. By Wednesday afternoon for the evening commute, we're starting to see some of this break up across the Bay Area, but the northern San Joaquin Valley getting in on some of the precipitation, and then, of course, the Sierra snow. What's interesting Wednesday night into Thursday morning is the warmth that's coming in with the storm. So what is an atmospheric river? It's been some time since we've talked about these, considering that we're just coming out of the dry season. We've got this high pressure ridge that's basically just to the south. There's that low pressure system. And as that high starts to edge its way down to the south, it gives access to this moisture coming in. Now, that is actually going to block us from getting this atmospheric river out of here, that low pressure system. It's going to keep us with that moisture plume for several days. So the low will draw in all of this moisture until that high finally makes its way off to the east, but we're going to continue to see some pretty significant moisture coming in. This is a Pineapple Express. Now, the key factor here is not all atmospheric rivers are Pineapple Expresses, but this one happens to be one that's pulling in some warm moisture. So we are going to see those higher snow lines. When we have atmospheric rivers, they carry 7.5 to 15 times the flow of the Mississippi River. That just shows you how much moisture is associated with this. They are responsible for the majority of West Coast water supply, but the absence of them also results in drought. So it's kind of a double-edged sword. We absolutely rely on them for the season to bring us near normal conditions, but when we get too many of them, we can have catastrophic flooding. So there's a scale that we follow. 1 would be a weak, primarily beneficial, and we'll see that in parts of California. 2 is going to be moderate, mostly beneficial, somewhat hazardous. 3 is strong. It's going to be equal parts beneficial and hazardous. When we get into the extreme scale, that's where we have mostly hazardous, somewhat beneficial, and then we wrap it up with the 5, exceptional, primarily hazardous. We see nearly all the scale across the board here with this particular line of atmospheric river coming in. Over the next 7 days, will be anywhere from 2 to 4 across the coastline here, where 1 to 4 inches of rain will come in across the capital region, but 10 plus inches of rain possible along the northwest coast. That just shows you how moisture laden this plume of moisture is coming in from the Pacific. Can the reservoirs handle it? At this point in the season, absolutely. And this is what water managers do all during the dry season. They actually release a lot of water in preparation for storm cycles like this. So Trinity is only 66% full. Shasta, our largest reservoir in the state, 55% full. What you'll notice, though, we're still above average. So they're being a little conservative in terms of just bringing it below average and making super capacity. It's early in the season, so we'll be able to handle this. Oroville, 48% full, and Folsom, only 36% full. So it looks a little alarming when you see some of these reservoirs because they have that kind of that bathtub line, and it looks kind of eerie that they're so low. But it's because of things like this with this weather pattern that they have to make way. 75% full for New Melones, Don Pedro 69, San Luis 52, and Millerton at 39% full. Again, plenty of capacity to take all of this in. The only thing that's of concern is going to be the flow coming off the Sierra. Because of that rising snow line, we will have a lot of storm runoff coming down the hill. But again, our rivers, lakes, streams, they're running a little bit on the lower side. The smaller bodies of waters, creeks and streams, they'll hit capacity much, much quicker than, say, the rivers and certainly the reservoirs. Reservoirs are going to be last on the list here. But here we go. Wednesday, winter storm warning goes into effect. So we've got the rain, snow, and wind coming in. Thursday, our snow level actually bumps up to about 7,000, even 8,000 feet nearly by the end of the day. By Friday, we're running close to about 8,000, almost 9,000 feet in some areas with the chance of thunderstorms. Now, we get some instability growing because cold air is starting to work its way in. A different type of weather system is going to be rolling our way late Saturday through Sunday. That's going to draw down that snow line and make it for some difficult travel on Sunday. So say you go up the hill on Friday, it's rain. You come back on Saturday into Sunday, it's snow. That means chain controls and likely travel delays and a much different type of travel situation in the high country. Excessive rainfall forecast really has that bull nose north of Fort Bragg along 101 with the high risk category. Moderate risk as we start to move our way south. Once we get into the valley, it's a slight risk to a marginal risk. Again, north of I-80, because it does look like the biggest impacts of this atmospheric river will be right along the coastline here through the northwest coast and then parts of areas north of I-80 as well. Statewide precipitation, we actually need this precipitation. It's feast or famine here in California. It doesn't seem like we can slowly edge into that rain bucket getting full. It's just either overflowing or we're running at a deficit. And nearly all of the state is in a deficit right now since October 1st, the beginning of the water year. The Tahoe Basin and actually some of the ski resorts are pretty close to average. It's been decent so far, but the amount of rain that we're going to receive, again, 1 to 3 inches, is nearly what we get in the entire month of November and October combined, or the month of December, which is one of our wettest 3 months of the year. Some of us could be closing in on 20 to 40% of our yearly precipitation by the time this storm cycle is done. There's a lot to be determined with this, but the early signs is we're going to be pulling in some big numbers with precipitation. Again, over a 5 to 7 day period. It's not going to come all at once. However, these numbers are impressive. Redding, 6 to 8 inches of rain. Sacramento, 3 to 4. Stockton, 1.5 to 2 inches. Lesser so for Modesto, and 1/2 inch to 1 inch, because the farther south we head of I-80, the lesser amount of precipitation we're going to draw in because of the impacts of where that atmospheric river will have its biggest impacts through the weekend. San Francisco, about 2 to 3 inches of rain. Blue Canyon, 8 to 10 inches of rain. Again, Blue Canyon's an area that we usually talk about having snow, and it is going to be under that winter storm warning into tomorrow evening. Once we get through tomorrow evening, it turns to rain. So we'll have some snow. You put rain on top of it, and that becomes runoff down the hill. Gravity is going to take that water to the point of least resistance, and it's going to go right into the valley here, where we have the potential to see some higher flows on, again, some of those smaller bodies of water. Flood watch in effect, and that's because of the amount of rain coming in a fairly short period of time. 8 to 10 inches possible in some of the foothills here throughout the coastal region, as well as towards Butte County, Plumas County. Certainly something to watch. Now, in terms of our winter severity index, you can see where we're going to have the most extreme conditions right around Mount Shasta. Heading northbound on I-5, it is going to be rather treacherous travel over the next 1 to 3 days. We're seeing a lot of that mix come in, but also very gusty winds along with that bomb cyclone. Some of these ski resorts are opening. Probably the best line of defense here to not get stuck up there is to call ahead or just keep up to date in case they close them because of the gusty winds, the heavy snow, and then turning over to rain. Some of the lower slopes may be indeed closed. So we've got Mount Mammoth and Mount Rose that are open. Heavenly actually opens tomorrow. North Star follows on Thursday. Friday, we've got Sugar Bowl, Palisades, Tahoe, Boreal, and then next week, Sierra Tahoe, Kirkwood in early December. So things are happening up in the high country. Snow level forecast may not cooperate the best here for our ski resorts. It'll be a little bit better for travel, honestly, because we're going to have the rain on the passes instead of snow, which will mean we're not having trucks pulling over for checks on their chains, as well as cars for four-wheel drive and people chaining up on the side. However, on Friday night through Saturday, that all starts to change. So Saturday and Sunday, it's going to be slow going over the high country. Again, here's a look at our satellite and radar. Someone called it eye candy. I love that for our satellite image, our counterclockwise circulation here of that low that's driving in the moisture. I really like this big picture here because it tells the story of how much that low is just pulling and forcing that line of moisture inland towards Northern California. Our headlines for our weather impact alert, it begins tomorrow. It lasts through the weekend and early next week. The impacts being rain, snow, and wind. Being storm ready, we've got many sandbagging locations ready for people to come and get those sandbags if you need it. 3 to 7 day weather hazards outlook. You can see heavy rain apparent across the coast, and then also heavy precipitation. We noted that with our winter storm severity index. Most notable will be near Shasta, but we'll still be getting periods of heavy precipitation, both in the form of rain and snow for some of the mountain areas. Also have that high wind risk for parts of California as well throughout the mostly northern Sacramento Valley, but certainly throughout the Sierra as well. So when we talk about tomorrow's forecast, it's wind gusts and snow for the Tahoe Basin. So along 80 and 50, it's going to be something getting up over the hill. Winds will start to back off a little bit for the valley during the morning hours. However, it continues near South Lake Tahoe, upwards of 50+ miles per hour. As we head into tomorrow, we really start to see the rain picking up during the morning and afternoon. Again, it will be snow. Tomorrow's the day we have bigger impacts with snow for the high country. And then by Thursday, it's going to be coming and going. That's when that warmer air starts to work in. Some places in the northern San Joaquin Valley will be seeing temperatures in the upper 60s on Thursday. So then we start to see the rain coming in for the Tahoe Basin on Thursday, and that's meaning a lot of runoff down the hill, one of the days that we'll be watching for the flood concerns. By Friday, next wave comes in. It starts off rather warm, but then this is when that cold air starts to have a bigger impact. Thus, the opportunity for thunderstorms in the valley and the foothills, and that snow line starting to come down the hill, and it will continue to do that into our Saturday morning. It's going to be pretty good news for those ski resorts that happen to be opening, but we have to watch to see if that does, in fact, start to impact some of the ski lift operations because of winds and snow. Sometimes it's just too much. They just can't clear it off. And the roads being inaccessible as well. Saturday evening, we get a little bit of a break, but then we still have more in store Sunday into Monday as a colder storm starts to head our way. Total precipitation about 3 to 4 inches in the valley, upwards of 7 to 8+ inches of rain for the foothills, especially north of I-80. For the Sierra, and every time I say this, somebody says, oh, she said feet instead of inches. I'm talking 1 to 3 feet of snow. 1 to 3 feet, not inches for the high country. But that'll be over a 4-day period, and we'll get more Sunday into Monday as well. So the big picture here, how far south is this going to extend into our outlook? It really hugs Northern California. Southern California, barely seeing a drop of rain through the end of the week. But Saturday is when this starts to slide its way south. It really fizzles out. So there's not a ton of moisture coming in. I know this is a big travel period, so you'll notice on Saturday, you're going to have hit and miss showers if you plan to head out for the pre-holiday Thanksgiving week travel. Once we get into our Sunday, that's what I'm talking about, into our Monday. That's when that next wave comes through, much more in the way of snow, rain, all the way into Southern California. And then we'll see the wraparound moisture ending on Monday into Tuesday. This is going to be about it. But again, Tuesday, that storm looks likely all the way into Southern California. But then it clears out Wednesday into Thursday into Friday. So if your travel plans have you going out Wednesday, Thanksgiving Day, or the day after, should be decent. The only thing that we'll have to worry about is potentially some fog, so we'll watch that. All right, 8 to 14-day climate outlook. Well, we have the warmer air coming in late this week. On the back end, it's likely cooler, which will be the case over Thanksgiving, but likely drier in the forecast, which will be better for travel. 9 days and counting until Thanksgiving, and then we get right into the winter solstice, 31 days away, 36 from Christmas Day, and 43 to the happy New Year of 2025. All right, highs for tomorrow in the 40s for this year. We're in the 50s for much of the foothills. Along the coast, highs in the 50s and near 60 degrees. Temperatures not as much the story this time around than, say, last night when we were looking at lows in the 30s. We have those on and off showers continuing through the weekend forecast. You'll see those temperatures drop significantly Saturday and Sunday into the 30s. That's why that snow line starts to come down. It does set us up for a chilly Thanksgiving week. We got to get through the next several days, though, with rain, thunderstorms, winds, and then we'll see some quieter weather, but much colder for Thanksgiving Day. Could be kind of nice, though, if you're having a full house, to open up some windows and let in some fresh air. Should be pretty nice for that walk after your turkey dinner.